Mira Business FM. The sound of success.
This is Mira Business FM. It's the morning drive. The UAE's industrial strategy is taking centre stage at Make It in the Emirates 2026 in Abu Dhabi, with a strong focus on scaling local manufacturing, strengthening supply chains, and embedding sustainability across heavy industry. The event is highlighting how industrial growth and ESG priorities are increasingly moving in tandem. The theme, advanced industry, is front and center. We're seeing an historic push to localize 5,000 products and strengthen the nation's industrial resilience. That's where we are. Joining us to discuss how heavy industry is meeting these Operation 300 billion goals is Noritsugu Mifune. He's the CEO of Al Ghabia Pipe Company. Recently named an Industry 4.0 digital leader as well. We'll be hopefully talking about that. Noritsugu, welcome to the show, sir.
You write so many things.
So that was just the information for you to just refer.
No, sorry.
But you be relaxed and talk.
You can say how you want. Just
I think we have an issue with the connection. We'll just have a look at how we can bring that back in a few moments' time here at Mira Business FM.
What do I have to introduce myself?
I said he will ask you, like, please introduce.
no, he will introduce yourself. He will introduce.
Mira Business FM.
I don't think he has any monitoring either. I don't think it's headphones. Well done, Albert.
Mira Business FM, where business comes to talk.
This is Mira Business FM, just about to link to Make It in the Emirates 2026 in Abu Dhabi. I just want to make sure you can hear us there in Abu Dhabi. Is everything coming through loud and clear? Give us a thumbs up.
Yes, sir.
That's great.
Got it.
Yes, thank you.
Guys, nice to be speaking to you. Joining us to discuss how heavy industry is meeting Operation 300 billion goals. Noritsugu Mifune is the CEO of the Al Ghabia Pipe Company, recently named an Industry 4.0 digital leader as well. Noritsugu, welcome to the program this morning.
Thank you very much. I'm Noritsugu Mifune. I should invite us. Thank you very much.
It's good to have you with us. I'd like to get your views, your opinions on how the sector is aligning with national industry goals and what it means for the future of sustainable manufacturing in the UAE. First of all, though, participation in Make It in the Emirates 2026. What does that mean in terms of what it represents for your company and the wider industry?
So first of all, we introduce our companies. Our companies made of the three big companies. One of the ADQ, Abu Dhabi government, investment government. And another two is, one is JFE Steel, Japan big steel company. And another is MISI, international trading company. All three companies are working from the 2019 in UAE. They have already successfully produced total 700,000 tons of the pipes they are used for transporting gas and oil in this area. Our valid customers is ADNOC. Already we have produced for them 90%, more than 90% pipe products. Then still demand in this area is very strong. So then we are very good at strategy, good strategy for keeping the supplying the lot of the pipes. But as you said, in the future, energy will be shifted to the green energy. For example, hydrogen or CO2 for CUSS. Then AGPC has already successfully developed new pipes for transporting those hydrogen gas or CO2 gas. Then in the future, the energy shifting to the green energy, we can still continue to produce pipes for these transporting gas, CO2 gas or hydrogen gas. Then UAE is very strong demand, I understand, and still continue supporting by the huge investment, the government or the ADNOC. We have very still optimistic in this area. Even if the demand change to the green energy, we can continue to do that.
So the UAE's manufacturing ecosystem is evolving, particularly for heavy industry, as you point out. How important is in-country value creation in your current operations and looking at your strategy?
ICV is a very important factor, I understand. So the ICV can support us, especially to encourage our attitude to make our pipes, because this shows our contribution to the development of UAE. And regarding the ecosystem, already AGPC applied so the water sewage plants, and also we have the lot of the LED lights to convert to save the electricity.
How does Operation 300 billion influence industrial decision making at the company level?
Yeah, we are very happy to such a very huge investment, because in the other countries, such an investment I have never seen. Only the UAE is very available for our company's development. So then we respect this huge investment and we'd like to be one of the projects.
Can I ask you about ESG and ESG principles and how, in practical terms, you integrate those principles into manufacturing processes, how that comes about?
ESG,
Environment. Water
environment. Environment is, as I said,
And governance.
we reduce
Yeah.
environment. For example, we reduce a lot of the waste
Yes.
to our technology. For the, as you said, MES system, it's very aware of all the high standards for safety, quality, and performance, which can available for us to reduce a lot of the waste, and also available our machine or equipment to reduce the waste itself. In physically, we can reduce the lot of the waste. The two technology, one is the high technology to prevent waste. It means we produce the pipes in high yield. Yield is a very good factor for reduce the waste. And another way is to have the good equipment to reduce the waste directly. Yeah, for the energy conservation.
Okay, Make It in the Emirates 2026. There is a very clear message about ESG, environmental, social, and governance, isn't there? That ESG and industrial growth have to move together. For a sector as energy intensive as steel, what does sustainable manufacturing actually look like on the factory floor? Feeding compression energy back into the grid, for example. How could you characterize that? Describe it for us.
LED lighting.
Hmm?
LED lighting.
Yes. One of the two key our factors is, as I said, sewage waste treatment equipment, and another is LED system. It reduces a lot of the electricity cost. I think it's very available for the environment.
Steel pipe manufacturing in Africa it sounds like traditional heavy industry, of course, yet Al Galbia are being hailed as a digital leader. I referred to that just before we started talking. You've recently signed a major AI partnership. That was at GITEX to deploy vision systems and advanced automation. How does AI change the way you produce a steel pipe?
Yeah, very good question. For example, the quality. For example, we request them to detect the surface issue for the plates. Now, operator can do that by their eyesight. But instead of that, the AI system can find the surface defect automatically. This is a very good attitude to make the good pipes. Instead of the people, there is some limitation for the people, but AI can support us to make the good quality pipes. Then we are very respect this idea and the action for the future our production. And safety also is very available for us. In AGPC, there are a lot of the camera inside the factory, and it can detect the very dangerous situation before some issue happened. This is a very helpful for AGPC now.
How competitive is the United Arab Emirates becoming, in your opinion, in your experience here, as a global manufacturing and export hub?
We are growing. How competitive is UAE? How competitive? Competitive.
AGPC is competitive. Yes.
UAE.
UAE is a very competitive country, and we have a very good chance for us to work here because lot of the logistics like that, lot of the good logistics and lot of the ports. And the position is middle between Europe and Asia. For our job business, it's a very good place in UAE, and very infrastructure is very strongly advanced. Electricity, water, gas, and logistics is perfect. Then I understand UAE is a very strong position for such an industry sector.
Final question for you. You're at Make It in the Emirates 2026 in Abu Dhabi at the moment. What key message do you want policymakers and also investors to take from the event?
Yeah, very good question. These days, I see a lot of the companies Make It in the Emirates. So many excellent companies. Of course, AGPC is excellent, one of the excellent company, I understand. But I think all of the local companies, including AGPC, are strongly capable for meeting the international and the local demand perfectly. So then we have the strong confidence. We'd like to work together with a lot of the local companies. This is our hope, and it's much possible in UAE.
It's clear a huge part of the future of UAE industry is steel and part of the digital future as well. Noritsugu Mifune from Al Ghabia Pipes. Thank you for joining us on the Morning Drive today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
This is Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM. The sound of success. Mira Business FM, where business comes to talk.
It's the Morning Drive. This is Mira Business FM. Good morning to you. My name is Tim Elliott. You can contact us as always. Don't forget you can comment on the stream. You can find us on social media. Very easy to find Mira Business FM. Lots of different channels. I can't go through them all because honestly I can't remember them. But you know, Google's there. Google's your friend. There's a search button pretty much everywhere you look these days. I feel like there are too many search buttons. That's a different story. Mario Volpi is here though. It's nice to see you.
Good morning, Tim. How are you?
Real estate. I'm all right, thanks. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm not going to mention anything about football
No.
after the events of last night. I know you're probably spitting feathers this morning at the other team that did well.
Yes. Well, I mean, I'm reading up about it. It seems that everybody wants Arsenal to win everything now. 2 Stonewall penalties not given. Gabriel, I think, can murder someone on the pitch and he'd still be on it. So I'm not cynical, am I really? No.
I was
Okay.
going to say, but then to be fair, I did say I'm not going to mention football and then
And then I
mentioned
did.
it
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly.
So that's what happens. Do you know, there are 4 things, right? I'm quite excited this morning. Weirdly excited. I probably need to get out more, but and I recognise that. Mario, by the way, I should point out, is a real estate expert. He's behind the Dubai Property Podcast. He writes a column for The National. It is his career. But 4 things that we were talking about yesterday on this program with AJ Menon from Lux Vista Real Estate. And he sent me 4 notes, and I wanted to discuss and go through these, kind of regurgitating old ground in a way. But I'm really interested to see what you think, because there are 4 things that look as though they are another stage in kind of the real estate landscape and quite transformative as well. And you know, of course, what they are. They've all been announced in the past week or 2. Okay. Extraordinary times that we're in. So I wanted to start with the reform of the minimum investment amount for the 2-year property visa, which to me feels like it's an invitation to a much broader demographic. It's kind of game-changing in lots of ways, but hugely significant. Your thoughts?
Very, very much so. I mean, look, we've mentioned it on this program and on others that Dubai always looks to innovate, always looks to improve.
Yeah.
And actually, in the face of, dare I say, adversity or chaos or whatever you want to say regarding the current situation, it's not stopping. This is just one of the things that I've always said they will come up with something in order to stimulate growth, to stimulate interest, to stimulate anything to do with the real estate market, which is hugely important.
Yeah.
So for the listeners, the 2-year investor visa. So this is not the golden visa. This is the 2-year investor visa, which means every 6 months you have to travel into Dubai for 1 day.
Yep.
So twice a year, as it were. The threshold, which actually was originally 1 million dirhams, went down to 750, and that threshold has now been removed altogether.
Yes.
So there is no threshold at all, as long as you are buying a property in your own sole name. So that's a big change, which basically means there is no barrier to entry at all now.
Yeah.
You just buy a property. Now, of course, that's determined on what the property prices are, of course. And if you can find something very, very cheap, then great.
Well, good luck to you.
Good luck to you. Yeah. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that if you're buying it in joint names, there is still a commitment there. So each party, so there is a price. So in effect, it has to be worth at least 800,000.
Yes.
Because each person has to have a share of 400,000 each. But essentially, those are the sort of bones of it. But essentially, as I said before, it just means that now you can have your own residency visa. Basically just buying any property at all in terms of value. And so really they are opening it up to many different people, especially first-time buyers. So now I think this is just one of many that we're going to discuss this morning that is actually steering this pause, perhaps this confusion with the conflict away from the property market to try and bring a little bit more clarity.
Yeah, I think it's important to bring these things together. It's the first of kind of 4 main changes, developments, points to discuss today. But it takes away that kind of financial floor, if you like. I think what's really interesting as well is the kind of demographic widening. And you would figure, wouldn't you, that if you take away the financial barrier, you're looking at perhaps a younger audience, potentially,
possibly,
a different audience, and allowing people to get, it's the foot on the ladder.
Yeah, that's why I said sort of more first-time buyers, perhaps, as well, or
right.
people who haven't necessarily committed to a purchase yet. They might be renting, and that's why I'm thinking here that, I mean, we've done deals with people who have come to us looking for rented property, and we've obviously put them into a home, whatever that is. But we've also sold things to those same individuals because, especially on a payment plan, or if you're buying something off plan, you can do it in stage payments as well. Now, that same person who is renting, let's say, who has decided to invest in Dubai, can now also have a visa attached to it, whereas before it didn't. And when I say it didn't, you had to have a certain level, even though that level came down from the original level. So now that level's been removed altogether, a person can really put the roots down that I think a lot of people need. And during these times of difficulty and uncertainty, where unfortunately, some people do, through the situation, have lost their jobs or have had to look at different ways. Now they've got that security that they can join a company, whatever, with their own visa, without necessarily have to be beholden to the company, etc. So, so from that point of view, as I say, it just makes life a lot easier. Yeah, it does, and that's a very good point, isn't it? That you have your own kind of visa, your own sort of status, if you like, and then you just go through the process of the work permit, if that's the direction you're going. Yeah. It is a lot easier. And there's also this thing, and I put this to AJ yesterday, and I think this is an important point that maybe we don't think about as much. It's a less, moves away from that kind of transactional market. There's an element that you could be encouraging, and I think this is very important, a more community-focused city, so more residents as owners, and that kind of changes things. Definitely it does, and I think we've been trying to do that for a while, obviously, and especially when rents were going up and up and up and up, there was that talk of, does it make sense to still rent? Because whilst it serves a purpose, it's dead money. I mean, you never see it again. At least if you're buying a property, in a market that goes up or down, whatever, there's capital appreciation, there's growth within that property, or of course you just stay with it if in a downward market. Yeah. So that definitely is something that we've been trying to get to anyway, and this is just one other way to help. But the one thing that also has changed is that the sort of the visa process and the sort of buying process are now all linked. That was another change that happened a couple of weeks ago, where they made an announcement that it's going to be more seamless. So actually, it's making it easier now to get these visas. So naturally, to then have this barrier to entry removed, kind of was expected on one hand, but it's always nice to actually have, because now it's all seamless under one roof. Well, it's good when it's signed, sealed and delivered, isn't it? That's the thing. The financial aspects next, and this is the second point I wanted to bring up with you, because we're seeing a real overhaul in terms of financial accessibility, and specifically this is the off-plan mortgage approvals and bank accounts for tourists as well. Two different things, but obviously the mortgage one, huge. Some while ago, we agents were peddling the fact that you can... You do a lot of peddling, don't you, as agents? Well, I am a cyclist. We were informing people, and rightly so, that especially if people had a 50-50 mortgage, once you've, a 50-50 payment plan, once you paid 50%, you can then go ahead and get a mortgage for the rest of the 50%. Yes. And that was fine, because that's also what the banks were, dare I say, kind of advertising. Mm-hmm. But when push came to shove, they didn't do it, which I found astounding, that actually there we are saying, you can then get finance. And I'm thinking, well, what do they do now if they don't have that other 50%? So how can we actually say we can do this, and then the banks, when I say they never did it, they were reluctant to do it.
They were reticent.
Yes.
They
So
were,
I'm not
yes.
quite sure why. I don't know whether it was a central bank directive, whether it was just the bank manager of that particular branch or whatever. But it wasn't as straightforward as you thought it would have been.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
let's put it that way. What this has now done is that they've completely come out and said that not only are you going to be able to get a mortgage to then cover the sort of handover, depending on the actual percentage. I mean, I talked 50-50. There might need to be a little bit more loan to value, etc. But they're also effectively promising that that mortgage at the time of the decision. And I think that is the most important part here. Getting a mortgage later, great, fine. But there's so many unknowns as well. I mean, they kind of still are. You don't know what the interest rate is. You don't know what the sort of parameters are, because that's when you have to go and do it.
Yeah.
But now you won't know the profit rate, obviously, because that's sometime in the future, but you do know what the get out clause is, you know what the redemption penalties are. You can have an opportunity to read the small print now and get your ducks in a line, which might take another 2 years, 3 years, depending, to get to the stage of handover.
Can I just translate, get your ducks in a line for a moment?
Sorry.
I'm with you, but no,
Okay.
that just means get ready.
Yes,
Yeah.
be prepared.
Yeah, good one.
Thank you. You're sort of, for the non-English speakers out there.
I love that phrase. I haven't heard that for ages. Get your ducks in a row.
Do you remember Vera Duckworth in Coronation Street used to have flying ducks on the wall?
Oh, that was that. We grew up with that picture as a kid.
There you go.
Yeah, and the horses emerging from the surf. Anyway,
Yeah.
a different one.
Anyway, so getting yourself ready at the point of the decision, which then gives everybody all the information they need to whether they want to proceed or not. There are no hidden extras. There's no hidden charges or anything like that. You will know right from the beginning.
Yeah.
So for me, this at the time when obviously a lot of investors, perhaps, and a lot of foreign investors are perhaps sitting on their hands waiting to see what happens, is an immediate boost in the arm, as it were, for the off-plan market. Clarity is what most investors want. Obviously, if you're buying the property for yourself as your home, that it's also amazing. But when you're buying for slightly different reasons like that, that's a genuine reason. It's going to be a home in 3-4 years' time or whatever, and it's built. You don't necessarily, as long as you can afford it, you just go for it or not. But it's the investors that will remove that, that perhaps confusion or that opaqueness. Whereas now everything's clear. You want to go for it or you don't, type of thing.
Exactly. It's that clarity and it's that decision, isn't it? And that's why this is so important.
The bank accounts?
I was going to move to that. I was just
No,
thinking.
because I want to talk about that.
Mortgage. Well, okay, we'll move on to that then. I'm slightly nervous now for some reason.
No,
but
it's all
mortgage
good.
pre-approval is such a game changer. So you would think, just to finish this point off, the fact is you can make a decision. You can really look and think, I can do that. That's going to create demand in this market.
Well, what it really also does is, I mean, it extends the payment plan, because when you go on to a payment plan of the developer, then obviously you understand what it has to do. But by then getting a mortgage, depending on how many years you're taking out the mortgage, effectively, you're just taking out a payment plan, really, that's just extending for another 10, 15, or dare I say even 20 years.
True.
Which means that it makes it more manageable, because everything is more bite-sized, and it's going to be a lot cheaper than paying rent. So the argument of should I rent or should I buy, when rents were going up, that was going around. This is, it just changes everything. And you can then get your visa. I mean, so I can see why you're excited. You made me excited about it now.
I just think there's so much to talk about. And, the other side of this as well, Mario, is it's been a really tough time. Last 65, 66 days, there's so much uncertainty. We've talked about it.
Are we talking about Chelsea now? Or
Chelsea first and then conflict after, of course, priorities and all that. But it just removes so much of that, and it's a really forward-thinking step. And it's this. We've only spoken about 2 of 4 things that have happened in the last week.
And that forward thinking is something that you have mentioned, I've mentioned on numerous occasions. That specifically the Dubai government, but the UAE government in general, they're always looking for improvements. And in the face of adversity, I mean, they're basically just turning their backs to it and getting on with it. One of the other things which we will talk about, but I'll just quickly mention it now. To announce infrastructure plans when potentially you still have a drone here or there coming over, which nobody wants, is a real it's. I want to say something. I don't even know if I can say it, but it sort of sticks 2 fingers up at someone.
I think you could say that. I think the sentiment's understood. That's okay. That's kind of the point here. And we talk about this kind of indefinable quality of confidence, the importance of confidence. But that is a factor, and it's a major factor, and it helps when times are tough, obviously. You want to talk about opening a bank account. So, I mean, this is hugely important. If you're not resident, you can have a bank account.
Well, the essence of it was amazing. It was how it was kind of announced that you can turn up at the airport, having flown in from wherever, and you can then open up a bank account. And on the face of it, I thought, well, that's probably not the first thing on your mind when you're coming here on holiday.
But you could do it before you fly in now.
Well, potentially. I don't know the full implications there or how to do it. But then it dawned on me that the amount of hassle we have as agents when you have a non-resident seller, okay,
right.
who then, because he doesn't have a bank account here, cannot cash the check that is given to him for the sale of his house. Now, when I say he cannot cash, we always found ways. There was third parties. The manager check on paper is still a legal document, and apparently you can take that manager check drawn on a UAE bank account to your bank, wherever it is, put it in. There's communications between the bank, but it can take 4, 5, even 6 months for that check to be. So what I'm saying is they would have got their money, but it was a nightmare, absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
So now, what this means, as far as I'm concerned, is that anybody that has a property and is selling a property but doesn't live here, because if the buyer buys through a mortgage, the bank of the buyer have a duty of care to only put on the manager check, the purchase price check, as it were, the name that's on the title deed, obviously, to try and stop fraud and what have you.
Right.
But when that name doesn't have a bank account, that's where the problem arose. And sometimes we got involved with, instructing power of attorneys where the owner would say, I want Tim to receive my money. You would then receive the money if it was cash, but a bank wouldn't do it. They wouldn't listen the fact that Tim is okay to receive the money because that's what the seller wanted.
Is he really?
Well, Tim may have run off with it, but that's the problem. So no, they wouldn't do it. They're not interested. It was always going to be the name of what was on the title deed. And that is why now that person literally, as you say, either from press of a button or whatever, I thought they had to come in here, but whatever, you can now open up a bank account. And for me, the most important thing is that you can now cash your check. You can cash it and then obviously use internet banking to transfer it to your own funds, whether it be in your own home country or keep it here, who knows. But for me, this is an absolute game changer. And again, it adds clarity of what to do when a seller, receives a manager's check and he's happy he sold a house, but what do I do with this piece of paper now? Now he can put it in his own bank account.
It solves a real pain in the neck, shall we say, in secondary market transactions. Correct. It really does, doesn't it? That's the key to it. And obviously it means as well, easier to move capital. Now, you have to fulfill certain requirements, obviously, to open a bank account. And there are KYC requirements. Of course there are. But you're right. It's very hard to get across just how important this is. I think.
And yet,
'Cause it seems like such a small
and yet,
thing.
how simple
Exactly.
has it been?
Yeah.
You know, before, I mean, when I came here, and obviously when I didn't have a job, I was able to open a save. You can open a savings account, but not a checking account.
Yeah, you've been able to do that.
Which was still a help, but some people didn't want to do that. But this is just a very simple solution. The central bank has got together with all the banks and says, right, or at least with one or two of the ones that are offering it, to say, right, this is a real problem. Let's come up with a solution. And of course, how simple. And I'm really, really grateful now that we've eliminated all that hassle of what to do. Or no, I'm not going to accept this buyer because he's a mortgaged buyer because I want cash.
Yes.
You know, that was the other thing.
Yeah.
So it actually now means that buyers can now hopefully have that choice of buying a property because the seller can actually do something with a piece of paper now.
Yeah, everything's just that little bit more seamless, isn't it? So we've got reform of the minimum investment amount for a 2-year property visa, total overhaul in terms of financial accessibility, so off-plan mortgage pre-approvals, bank accounts for tourists. Let's move on to the next thing, and this is the physical transformation, which is we're going to see in some time. But as you said, infrastructure announcements at this kind of level, and we're talking about the Gold Line in particular of the Dubai Metro, is such an integral part of the story right now.
It is, and what you've got to look at is where they're placing it. So the sort of red line, we had, for example, I mean, it was 2009, so that was when the red line was opened. And whilst, of course, we've moved on from there in terms of buildings have all moved up, it was a very specific artery. What this Gold Line is going to bring in areas of the city that have not been touched before, but still are important, and a lot of villa communities as well, and townhouse communities, which means that rather than necessarily just keep building roads, there is a possibility that you are helping some people to not necessarily have to use their car as much as they would need to, especially not for commuting or going to work. So that will also have a knock-on effect on traffic, because we want people in, obviously, but then we were the first to moan about the traffic. This way, you are actually potentially making sure that for some people, they may not need to use their car on a Monday to Friday, they'll just use it at the weekend. Families, I know they have extracurricular activities, they've got to move a few more things around, I get that. But certainly that commute, this will definitely help. And of course, whenever you have an announcement like this, the initial reaction is that people, they have a roadmap. They can actually see, in this case, it's a metro map, but, it's a map where all the stations are, who's going to benefit. And for the canny investor, if someone says to me, where's the next big thing, just look on that map.
Yeah.
And if there is another area near to that map that's got something else, well, that just adds to that area. We talked about, for example, Jumeirah Garden City, which is opposite the DIFC, which is going to expand. You've got the Dubai Loop. You've got all sorts of stuff going on there. So that, again, links in with employment, because now people potentially might even be able to just use the loop to get to the other side. They don't even necessarily have to commute very far. And that will then concentrate that area, because more people will come in. People equals real estate. And of course, that's, in an ideal world, when the market is going well, that's where the growth will be. So this metro line, and it's ironic they call it gold, because, Dubai is the city of gold, is going to be an important part of, and will plug into an important, metro map, and will link up places that we've never thought of before, maybe a little bit isolated.
Well, this is the thing, it's the
definitely will go up.
undervalued kind of pockets of the city, isn't it, that are being linked. So that means if you link places that, and I use undervalued advisedly there, I don't mean that it's not worth something, I mean it's just not being valued at the level it perhaps should be.
It's making real estate valuable anyway, wherever you are. And I think that obviously there's a value because you've got to buy it, and that's where you were alluding to.
Yes.
But the value from the point of view right now, if you're in, there's an argument that if you're in JLT, for example, your place could be more valuable because you've got 2 metro stations there compared to, let's say, certain parts of the Greens, which is still on, not far, but, a bit of a walk from there to Internet City, for example. Yeah. So there is an argument that from a commuting point of view, it is better maybe to buy in JLT than, let's say, the Greens, if people are just that way inclined. This way, by adding this extra metro line, and there are going to be many more, of course, it just adds value and convenience to real estate that has a value anyway.
It takes a residential area and turns it into, perhaps, you could argue quite successfully, a prime residential area. Primer.
Yeah.
That's probably the word.
More prime.
And then, of course, there's the historical impact, isn't there, of yields and the benefit, of course, just when it comes to selling or
and it
renting
connects the city as well, which is effectively what we want.
True.
Recently, my company was sort of looking for a new office, and the major place that you should be looking in is Business Bay, to be fair.
Right.
But we decided not to look there because the traffic is horrendous, absolutely horrendous. So, these kind of metro lines will just help to connect. And where the current office is, for example, in Motor City, there is no metro line, but there is one coming, which again, it just opens up so many more areas of Dubai or certainly of the city that before people would go, no, I'm not even going to look down there, either for living in or for working in. Now it just means everything's open in that respect, or will be.
Well, it does. The other side of this is, it takes a long time to build metro lines. I get that. But I think for the Gold Line, we're looking 2032, it's around about there. So that's 6 years away. 6 years, when you're as old as we are, Mario, that's next week.
Okay, fair enough. I was then just
maybe
thinking.
You don't feel. Maybe that's me.
No, it's okay. I was then thinking, well, Maktoum will be moving around that time, isn't it? Is it 32 or 34? I can't remember where they're going to be moving
it's
across.
Not far away from that. Yeah, that's right. It's just those are the 4 things that I think. This is all very recent in terms of when these things happen. It's the last week or two that we've seen these announcements. I just thought it was important to sort of bring them together, and I appreciate your thoughts on it. But it's just hugely positive, isn't it?
Very much so, and I think we need that because, like a reputation, it takes 5 minutes to lose it and years to build it up. We need to keep going to show people that no matter what is thrown at us, we have a plan, and clearly this plan is now to say, well, we're just going to keep going. And we're going to get through this, and everything will be all right. And I think people do need to hear that, not just from, dare I say, individuals like me, but this is a big statement from the government to say this is actually going to happen. And what I was about to say when you mentioned it is, we have a date. We have a date when that metro is going to be handed over. To actually say it specifically, even down to the time. Who could? I remember when Wembley Stadium came down, it took them 10 years to rebuild it, right? Here we have, and as you said, it's a major infrastructure model, because it's going to be, underground as well.
Is it 100% underground?
I don't know that it's 100%,
it's pretty close but it's not, yeah.
But there's a lot of work involved. Think of the amount of tiles and things like that they've got to put up on the walls.
Is that what you're thinking
about?
Yes.
Well, I'm thinking of the UK metro.
Mario is a tile counter.
Well, no, because my wife's bought loads of tiles for our new bathroom. That's all I have in my head.
Well, if she's got any spare, she could.
Well, she could give the Dubai government, couldn't she?
What do you think of this little mosaic?
Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
But I think you're right, and I think that it goes with the 090909, which was the original metro launch. I think that's the plan this time, isn't it? So 09.
And that's morning. Right. It's the morning of, again, 9th of September, and whenever. The thing is that I remember that any babies that were born on the 9th of September in 2009 were given free use of the metro. Apparently, I don't know anyone who was born on the 9th of September. Yeah, apparently so. Yeah. So even we're not necessarily talking about Emiratis, and ironically now, everyone who lives in the UAE according to the government, is Emirati. You know, that statement, that slogan they're saying, that unity, we're all in this together, and together we stand proud. And I think that's really nice to see that they're giving something like that, which obviously a baby's not going to be interested in it. But hey, when that baby turns into a teenager and wants the independence and now can travel around, so I don't know whether they're going to do it again, but certainly the people that were born in 2009, I don't know how many there were, but would have benefited from that.
Well, anybody from the government listening, there you go. There's a free tip from Maria. There's a marketing plan for you, or at least a contribution to one. I haven't bought that T-shirt yet. Everybody's an Emirati thing. There's loads of those. Right?
Is there? I didn't know.
There's sweatshirts, T-shirts, scarves, the whole lot.
So it's a thing?
Yeah. Oh, that's definitely a thing, yeah. I keep thinking about it. A few other things I wanted to talk to you about this morning as well, and I wanted to just look at a couple of 2 or 3 stories that have been in the papers this week. The first of them is to look, not in too much detail, but it is just an interesting headline, because obviously this is immediate as soon as these announcements are made. And this is ADCB, it's Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank, and they're one of many of the banks that are going to be launching new products. But the off-plan mortgage scheme to ease home financing for buyers. That was a headline. I think it was right at the end of last Thursday, was it? From Khalij Times. The idea of making home financing easier. This is a very familiar media theme, given what we've seen in the last few days.
No, absolutely. But we've talked about that, and that for me is a game changer for the off-plan market, because, as I say, it removes any opaqueness. It's clear. You have the purchase price, you have the payment plan, the service charges, depending on the developer as well, because I think that's really important. And I think these mortgages are linked to not every single developer.
They're obviously yeah.
So that's also important, and that feeds into historical, whether they're known for their delays or not, which nowadays a lot of these developers have their own in-house contracting companies. So actually that sort of delay, I'm not going to say has gone away completely, but it kind of has. People actually are delivering not just on time, but even early, or at least they were prior to the conflict.
Yeah, you've said that a few times before. I mean, that's a reasonably regular occurrence, isn't it?
It is, but that opens up other challenges, but it's okay, because the developer will say, look, we're ready to hand over. If you're not ready, from the point of view that they're carrying on just with the payment plan and have the money, but don't have the money, forget the mortgages for the moment, then the investor can say, well, no, I'll just stick to what the payment plan was. And if that means the property stays empty for 4 or 5 months or whatever, well, so be it. They can only take it when they've got the money, because the developer will not hand it over until they get paid, even though they might be ready. So that brings its own challenges as well. But it's quite a nice problem to have in some respects, assuming you do have the money. If you're getting a mortgage and the developer is early, you just take handover early, because you just fast track the mortgage, or the end payment, that balloon payment that you have to pay, and so you just take it earlier. So actually, for mortgages, not a problem. If you're buying cash, you may or may not necessarily have it at that time, because you know at the beginning what your payment plan is. It's not your fault if the developer's early.
No, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's a nice problem to have. And if you're anything like Mr. and Mrs. Volpe, you can get in that little bit earlier and make sure that you're happy with your tiles.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's very important to get across. But the thing about this is, and this is just one example of a story in the paper in the last week in terms of products, but reducing barriers for new buyers, supporting the market, I think to some extent as well, enhancing what's available, you're encouraging long-term home ownership, and there's that little added piece of, we're back to the ethereal confidence thing again, in terms of, off-plan. It's just that little added boost, little fillip, if you like, as well. I just think it all kind of contributes to the discussion this morning. Another story, this is Gulf News. Earlier this week, I think it was, Dubai property market steady, no sign of distress sales, despite expectations that uncertainty might trigger discounted deals. And of course, I mean, you must have fielded a few requests about this. Find me something. People are going to be selling, doing this, doing that, but far less than people had hoped.
Yeah, and that feeds into, like I said before, the motivation of why some people are selling. You know, that there is a majority of stock, if you like, online available for sale, and the reason for sale is because the owner wants to achieve a certain price. It's a reason, I guess, but it's not really a very strong reason. There's no sort of financial reason as to why people are necessarily selling. Now, I'm not saying all of the people are like that. I'm saying a lot of those sellers are like that, which is why these buyers are, I guess, disappointed. Because also we have to define the word distress. What is distress to you is different to what distress is to me, and vice versa. So that's definitely the first question that I ask when I'm evaluating a particular buyer. And the buyer, I think, is just wanting a deal. He wants a bargain, as I guess we all do. That's inherent in our human psyche, that yesterday I had to pay X, today I need to pay Y. Yeah. And in fact, I've even had people who were this close to agreeing something, at the weekend, and then of course Monday we have the alerts again, right. And that uncertainty. They've pulled back and said, well, we'll wait a little bit more because I think we can get a bit better discount. Really? So there is always going to be that kind of a buyer out there. Yeah. That opportunist buyer is swimming in this tank of sharks, as it were. So I've always said it doesn't kind of really matter whether the market is going up or going down. There are deals to be done. People need to move. Nobody can time the market. So it is a bit of a game of chance as well. And that's why you have some winners and that's why you have some losers, because unfortunately you cannot predict it. But if you're going into a market and transacting both ways, then it doesn't matter when you're buying. And what do I mean by both ways? So if I'm selling something in order to buy something, mentally, in a downward market, I'm going to have to think, I'm going to have to sell it for less than I thought. That really hurts me. I don't really want to do that. The buyer is going to win. There's all that ego involved as well. But then when you sell it, you become a buyer if you're buying. So the loss in your mind that you're making on the sale in a downward market, you hopefully will make it up on your purchase. And the same is true that in an upward market, you're going to get more money for your house, but if you're buying again, you're going to have to spend more money on the next one. So it doesn't matter. It's only when people are doing one transaction when they're trying to time it. And of course, that's where you do get your winners and your losers.
Let me ask you this. Here's a paragraph in this same article. Negotiation has returned, but within normal ranges, typically 5 to 15% below
percentages,
below peak values, indicating healthy market behavior rather than distress.
I would question that a little bit along the lines of maybe the agreed sale prices are within the norm of 5 to 10, possibly 15%.
Okay.
But I would tell you from experience that the opening offers are not 5%, 10%.
That's why you're here, Mario.
Yeah, that's the end game. That's what we kind of try and get to.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a real life example. We had a gentleman who was selling a property in beachfront. Prior to the sort of conflict, it was on at 3.4 million. It was a one-bedroom. He only paid just under 2 million, if I remember rightly. So he was, it had appreciated, and rightly so. I'm not saying, good luck to him, that's great.
Right.
It appreciated. It was never really worth 3.4 million. That was a bit of a cheeky price, but we were trying it. That's what he wanted. We were trying to get him down, but at that time he wasn't ready. We then find a buyer. We found the buyer last week, so you can imagine. So it'd been some time, and this is a property that he bought literally to make money on, and he wants to do something else with it. So a perfect example of transacting both ways.
Right.
We got an offer of 2.4, so 1 million off. Oh, right.
Okay.
2.4. Now, that's a big reduction.
Yeah.
Now, it could be that the buyer has done his research and thought, well, it's not worth 3.4 anyway. That's why I'm quite happy to come in at this kind of price. To cut a long story short, we agreed the sale at 2.7, even though the owner was willing to come down and he really wanted 2.8, really trying. We tried everything. But this buyer was what I call a blue structured person, very statistically driven, like an accountant.
A blue structured
there's a
person?
podcast I can do about blue, green, red, and yellow. It's our characteristics. We all have them, all the colors. One is creative, one's an alpha sort of male. A lot of CDOs are that. That's red. Green is touchy-feely. I'm a bit that.
And what are you? Well, green is very Italian.
Well, green is
Colour.
but it's one color is dominant. I know we've gone off a tangent here. We all have the same colors in all of us, but one color is dominant. For me, I'm green-red. And red tends to be more leaders, more CEOs, whatever. You know, they buy cars because they ask questions like, how fast does it go? Whereas a blue structured person will ask the car, well, what's the fuel consumption? You know, it's different statistics.
I'm like, can I have a black one?
No.
How does that work? What colour am I?
Or a white one.
I want
I
that
don't know,
one.
creative maybe, who knows? A lot of people in marketing are creative, you know, so they're yellow structured. And this actually is a training course that is out there. In fact, there was a book out called I'm Surrounded by Idiots. And that book touches upon the sort of characteristics of everyone. And now I don't even remember why I said that.
No, I'm completely. It's so interesting. We'll talk about that in more detail next week. Maybe that'll be our main topic. It was a blue structured person that bought the property.
Yeah, because that's right.
Yeah.
Because because he's an accountant,
Right.
he looks at numbers, he looks at figures.
Right.
So he looks at past data. So for him, he knew
Dispassionately,
absolutely because
yeah.
he's also buying it as an investor.
Right.
You know, there's no emotion involved. He's not like for an end user. Whereas a person moving in, you know, you say, oh, well, why did you buy this? But oh, it felt right when we walked in. What does that mean? You can't bottle it, but that person must have been more dominant green structured because they're more in tune with their emotions. How do they feel when they open the curtains, they see the sea? Or how do they feel because they're looking over a golf course? Or whatever. You know, there's many reasons why people buy houses from a material point of view and what they need, but also it's that feeling for end users. Sometimes investors use that too, but they shouldn't do. What's the price? What's the service charge? What can I rent it for? What's my ROI? And what's it going to be in 3 years' time, etc. That's why they should buy it. They're mainly blue structured.
Okay. No, I get that. But surely if you're buying property as an investment and you can walk in and you can see yourself there, you could see the people you're going to rent to in there as well. There's an element of mixture there, isn't there? I walk into places, the last 3 places I've lived in, I've walked in and I've thought, I can see myself here. And that's the decision made in my head.
Yes, and I'll give you another example, and I think I mentioned it before. We were looking to buy something in East London before the 2012 Olympics, and we found a property. My wife walked in, and she didn't like the place because she couldn't see herself living there.
Right.
And so I think...
Was it the tiles? Was it?
Well, it was the bathroom, funny enough, but I don't know about the tiles.
I trust Mrs. Volpe. I do.
Well, look, she's a better judge of character than I am, that's for sure. But the problem was that because she couldn't see herself living there, despite the fact that we would change things, I think that clouded her vision. And as it turned out, it was a mistake because London did get the 2012 Olympics, because this was around 2007 that we went to see it.
Right.
Capital appreciation happened. I'm not going to say overnight, but it was a heavy growth because around Stratford, because it was near Stratford, where the connectivity of the railway line, again, we're back to the metro again, etc., meant that unit, you could say, doubled in price by the time the Olympic torch was lit. My mistake that I let her rule that conversation when actually, when it comes to real estate and you're buying for that reason because you're not going to live there, as long as you make it nice enough, there will be people who want to move there because of the location. She looked at it more from the point of view that I'm not sure about the location, and of course she didn't like the bathroom, but whatever. It was an avocado bathroom, as I remember. In those days, in this sort of, do you remember the avocado suites?
I remember
and
the
then everyone
avocado
back to the
suites,
white.
yeah,
But
yeah.
whatever. The point is that sometimes you have to take the emotion out, and green structured people find that difficult.
So interesting, this. So let's get back to the article here, shall we? Shall we? Here was the headline: Dubai property market steady, no sign of distressed sales. Another paragraph I wanted to ask you about agents, and obviously you rule with an iron fist
Really?
many agents.
Okay.
I was trying to beat you up there. It didn't work, did it? Agents are reporting, and I wonder if this is true. Let me just give you the list: longer decision cycles, more viewings, more structured negotiations, because buyers are prioritising value, location, and developer credibility, particularly off-plan. Is that true?
I love the word more structured negotiations. That's,
Yeah, I know.
That's just media speak. For it's taking
It's
longer,
spin, isn't it? Yeah.
people are sitting on their hands, and I'm not coming up to that figure. You're having a laugh, type of thing.
I love the way you decipher that immediately.
So yes to all of the above.
Really?
You know,
Yeah.
people they don't need. You see, before the market was so rushed, especially off plan. If you didn't decide, and we mentioned many stories where people lost because they went down to have a cigarette in a lift, etc.
Right.
That rushness has gone. Good, and I say good because the buyer needs to really decide and take their time and do their due diligence, not just on the developer, on the product, but even on the agent and the agencies. There's so much to consider. This is a lot of money that people are spending, whichever way you look at it. And it's a big decision. Therefore, you need that little bit of time. Sometimes humans take too much time, and they stall. So they do need the agent to push a little bit, because otherwise, if you wait too long, the market is still happening. I don't want people to think no deals are being done. There are deals still being done.
It's still dynamic.
So the percentage points, as I say, that's the end game.
Mm-hmm.
The more viewings, they're taking their time. They're seeing something, they like it, but they're just making sure. So if you have something comparable, they're going to see that. Now, the difficulty is if you don't have anything, that is where the buyer then thinks, well, he's not sure because he's got nothing to compare it to. That's when they'll talk to friends and relatives, and that is a disaster already because they always feed them with nonsense half the time. So I always hope that you take a buyer, you keep them locked away from anybody other than facts and figures. I'm okay with facts and figures.
I'm not sure you can lock people away, your clients, Mario.
Okay.
Just a reminder.
No, I know
That's
I can't.
not legal.
But the problem is that they fill their heads with nonsense. And I wouldn't mind if it was accurate, but it's not. It's all hearsay. And that's why I'm saying if people can hit me with facts, this one sold for that, that's fine. I then have an argument to speak to the seller who has his own reasons for selling and motivation to achieve a certain price. But if I can hit him with, look, your property, one floor down or one floor up, exactly the same, sold for X, why do you think yours is worth Y? Because mine's always worth more than yours, yeah?
Yeah.
It's always like that.
Yeah.
The one down the road, but that one hasn't got my view. Well, actually it does. It's the same one, only one floor down. Yeah, but I'm one floor up. Not a difference, Mr. Seller. There's always that argument. Those are facts and figures that you can actually hit people with. But they will come up with all sorts of excuses. My bath is gold, or perhaps. Although I've never seen a gold bath here, actually, to be fair.
Have you not?
No.
I would have thought that's something you'd
No,
seen.
I saw them on,
What about
these
taps?
Oh yeah, gold tap. Well, not but not solid gold taps. But
Really,
gold
just
plated
plated?
taps, especially in Emirates Hills. Yeah,
Wow.
but then when they have lifts and things, it's only 2 floors. Well, 3 floors if you go down as well. But
Yeah.
why have legs and use them?
Yeah,
just use the lift.
That's a totally logical statement.
Not me. Actually, that reminds me of a time. Sorry, digress a bit. A guy got stuck in the lift in an Emirates Hills villa years and years and years ago.
Right.
It was a villa that was being renovated, and he insisted on using the lift, and it broke down, and he was in it, and he was in it for hours.
Really?
We couldn't release him. Yeah, and that completely put him off buying the villa. Which again, keep buyers away. Yeah, there's the lift. Don't use it. We'll use the stairs. Right. But yeah, it's funny now. It wasn't funny at the time because obviously it took forever to get him out, and he was panicking and everything. He was completely over the top in terms of drama.
With some people, there's no telling them.
I mean, he wasn't exactly like Houdini in a water, and he was going to die in a minute. He could have stayed there forever, you know. But we got him out.
That's quite a traumatic experience.
It clearly was for him, but it would have been more traumatic if he was in water.
I tell you what, it's a great war story for later in your life. You're going to tell us about your shrapnel next, aren't you?
My
Or
goodness.
something? I'm not sure.
No, fortunately, no shrapnel.
So far. All right then, so let me just bring up the last story, because I want to finish on quite a positive note, because it's been a very positive discussion. It's certainly in terms of what we've seen happening. It's good for the market, right? Abu Dhabi, Dubai see April rebound as UAE property markets defy headwinds. Softer March data, which I think we all understand, but Dubai off-plan sales reach 19.7 billion. This is for the, I guess, is this for the quarter, or is this, no, this is April. That's a pretty strong return, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very strong return.
Tell me, yeah.
And whilst you have to believe the numbers, they're up there. Look, I don't want to be controversial, but I'd like to see more than just 1 month's figures.
Yeah.
It's too soon to what happened. Maybe there are many people out there who, believe 100% in the vision and that we will be absolutely fine, which we will, but that takes time. So it depends on why these people are buying these off-plan units. And if it is for the future, then of course no issues. Because in 3 years' time, 4 years' time, whenever these things are being handed over, we will be in a different place. We'll be in a much better place as well. And so perhaps you can call them visionaries. But I would prefer to comment on more data, on more months rather than one particular, because there could be too many anomalies here.
No, I mean, I can understand that. It's interesting because, this particular article, let me just check which media was it. This is Gulf News. Abu Dhabi residential activity strengthening. 3,200 units sold in April, 13 billion dirhams, just over. So that surpasses earlier months. So those are registered sales in the month, okay? Dubai's market holding firm, and we're in an uncertain period. Sale prices up 21.1% year on year, average of 2.21 million, which doesn't tell you much. But off-plan sales dominated, and that figure is right for April. Nearly 9,000 deals, 19.7 billion.
No, it's a lot. It's a lot of deals, which, like I say, either people are buying to live in it themselves, in which case, in some respects, this, dare I say, short term, whether it's weeks or months, it's still short term situation that we're in, will be over, and the government is launching things now during a conflict. Talking about infrastructure, it's going to be, they're saying basically it's business as usual. No matter what you do to us or throw at us, we are not going to stop. We're still a forward-thinking government. We're still a forward-thinking community, and we will continue to improve. So yeah, I mean, all credit to them, really.
I mean, we got just a couple of minutes, but what's interesting about this article is the overall outlook. So both markets resilient. I think that's a fair thing to say. It's a reasonable assessment. Demand steady, prices holding, development pipelines are expanding. I think we can both agree with that. But it then drills down into Dubai with a one-liner, Abu Dhabi with a one-liner. Dubai's is this: stronger value growth driven by off-plan and high-end sales. Reasonable.
High end for sure. We've definitely reported on those, and they continue to buck the trend because now whether
3 records in the last
exactly.
month,
I don't know whether the sort of the wealthy, the high net worth individuals, are drinking from the Kool-Aid or something. I don't know, but they're certainly not. They're not phased at all. So that is definitely happening.
Yeah,
and the numbers of transactions are still so high. Now, of course, you're talking to one person here who deals with a certain, percentage of the marketplace, but there are, that's maybe 1% of the marketplace. The other 99%, I don't know. It's anecdotal. You hear stories.
Sure.
Other agents are saying X, Y, Z in line with what we're saying, But I do know for a fact that in certainly in March, I'm not sure about April, but in March, 2 or 3 of the sort of big organizations that tend to deal with secondary market have had what they describe as best months ever in March, when we were having missiles thrown at us. Now, they wouldn't say that if it wasn't true. So, maybe all these figures are all 100% correct. And, the world's a big place. And there may be still many people who believe in Dubai and believe in what the government is doing. And the fact that it is a stable government, not like the UK government who's about to get kicked out, no doubt, with the local elections.
That's different. It's a very different thing.
No, but what I'm saying is that it's stable here. Yeah. And even if it wasn't stable, we'd vote these guys in because they're doing an amazing job. If we were able to vote, of course.
It's a good point, but it's why it's important to look at these figures. I mean, these are published figures. You can check these. You go and look at the DRD if you want to. The final thing is the line on Abu Dhabi. So consistent stability in both sales and leasing. Data suggests the UAE market is successfully absorbing short-term disruptions and maintaining long-term strength. Is kind of the sign-off.
Yeah, it is. But the key to that is short-term disruptions. And that's what we're all hoping and praying that statement is correct. The longer this situation goes on for will unfortunately wobble that statement, because people want clarity, and all we've done today is talk about what the government has done to add clarity to the real estate market through mortgages, through bank accounts, through visas, et cetera, et cetera. Unfortunately, things like this just throw this sort of cloud over everything that just makes people think, shall we wait, shall we not? Which, in real estate, nobody wants that, because once you make the decision to move, the time to move is always now.
Well, the latest positive news that I read earlier this morning was the US president says the US is to pause operation to guide vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. The reason is because, so he says, is that there's been progress made towards a deal. So
again, we don't know what goes on in between. Yeah, there's a lot of rhetoric, there's a lot of propaganda from both sides, I have to say. You take everything with a pinch of salt. But don't forget that he just announced this 3 hours earlier and then paused it. I mean, Hesketh is the Minister of War or whatever, announced it, and then 3 hours later saying they're pausing it. So hopefully that is good news. Hopefully sooner or later we're going to come to some sort of an agreement that we can then put all of this behind us and talk about other things.
I'm looking forward to that, let me tell you. Mario Volpe co-presents the Dubai Property Podcast. He hosts a weekly property column, answers a whole range of reader questions at The National, and you can find him here at Mira Business FM on Wednesday mornings, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. See you next week.
Good to see you, Mario. This is Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio. Mira Business FM. The sound of success.
It's the morning drive. Dubai at Abu Dhabi's job market is showing mixed signals. Layoffs and tighter budgets make the headlines, although hiring activity is still holding up across key sectors. So what's really happening beneath the surface, and how should job seekers and businesses read this moment? Zachary Beckett is a talent partner at the recruitment firm Professional Pyramid and joins me again in the studio. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me back.
You're very welcome back as well. So, kind of frontline insights from you today, Zach. And this comes from a post that you put out. And you asked 3 founders recently, what is happening with hiring in Dubai and Abu Dhabi? Mm-hmm. Pretty simple question. So let's start with what you asked and what they told you specifically.
So essentially, I actually spoke to more than 3. I just wanted to highlight 3. I spoke to more people after, and I've been speaking to people throughout the duration of this. Right. Even when we had our first discussion, I've been speaking with people from organizations that are hiring, organizations that aren't hiring, from recruitment companies, and pretty much everything in the middle. Okay. Because I want to make sure that I'm up to date with what's actually happening before I'm sharing stuff with people and putting out just random thoughts, right? So I want to make sure that what I'm sharing is accurate. These 3 particular individuals are founders or managing directors of 2 major recruitment companies in the region and 1 sort of scale up, we can say. And they've been seeing similar things. I kind of wanted to get their general thoughts on the market. What was going on with them? Are they still hiring? How's business going for them? Because recruitment companies can be a very good indication as to what's actually going on with the market, because their business is hiring.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. So their business is hiring. If business is bad for them, then it either means that organizations don't have budget for recruitment agencies, or they're trying to manage everything internally. But typically, organizations need recruiters. So the thoughts that they shared on the market were overwhelmingly positive. Don't get me wrong. There was some trepidation with them in terms of, over the next few months, what's going to be occurring. Are they going to continue seeing the business that they're seeing? But generally speaking, they are hitting targets and, for the most part, and they are still doing well.
It's a lot more positive than maybe the press would have you believe, or some of the press would have you believe. So the response really was that the current hiring landscape is a mixed bag. No real surprises there, I suppose. But what about contradictions that you're seeing? Because it's not all clarity, is it? There's some opaque stuff going on.
Of course, right? Everyone's going to have different experiences. Every company is going to experience things differently. Some companies are, believe it or not, doubling down on hiring, whilst others are laying off 80, 90, if not in some cases 100% of their workforce and shutting down. There's going to be different responses from organizations. There's going to be different responses from recruiters. And overwhelmingly, the market reacts differently because everyone's experience is individual.
Okay. So there's a lot of talk about increased redundancies, mm-hmm. and there's a lot of talk about cost cutting and perhaps salary cuts. Depends very much on the business. Is all that happening, and which are the sectors that are feeling it the most?
Unfortunately, yes.
Right.
It is happening. Right. I've been speaking to a lot of C-suite sort of exec grade individuals, and these are typically people on 100, 150, 200,000 AED a month, right? So they're on a pretty hefty salary.
Right.
A lot of these individuals have seen pretty drastic cuts in their salaries, but oftentimes these are optional from them in order to try and perhaps take a little bit of weight off the lower levels who would have been made redundant otherwise. So there have been cuts, there have been salary cuts, and there will probably continue to be salary cuts, and there also have been redundancies. But again, this is specific to the organizations, it's specific to their business and whatnot. And for example, hospitality is a space where things are quite aggressively getting hit at the moment.
Sure.
Hospitality, it's pretty heavily leveraged on tourism. And when tourism dies down, unfortunately, some restaurants are running at 80, 90% lower than their typical capacity. So they're running pretty low on capacity. So a lot of their wait staff have been, put on half salaries and stuff like that. This is occurring. Unfortunately, this is occurring. And it will continue to occur until things do settle down. But it's the organizations that are a little bit more or a little bit less affected directly that are perhaps not really seeing these effects.
Which kinds of organizations not affected directly?
It really depends, right? So if they are reliant on tourism, they're going to struggle.
Sure.
If they're reliant on anything that's directly affected, i.e. oil and gas, people at the lower levels are going to be affected, right? The people who are perhaps being taken off site, they are the people that are going to be affected. The people at the top level, the more strategic decision makers, they're not going to be affected as much. But of course, as I said, they may see some salary cuts just to kind of weather the storm a little bit.
I mean, you still seem, and I have to say, being positive is a good thing, right? But you still seem relatively positive. So we know, and I'm hoping you're going to back this up, otherwise I looked up, and then I looked after a lot, so it's fine. Recruiters are still making placements, right? And you're still winning new business. So there is some resilience, that's the word at the moment, of course, but that is there, isn't it?
Well, we're still turning away most people that reach out to us in terms of companies asking for resources. So when companies reach out to us and say, and we're talking major organizations reaching out to us and saying, hey, can you jump on our PSL? Can you send us over applicants? Unfortunately, we still have to turn most of them away because of how busy we are. So whilst, yes, some agencies will feel it, some agencies will feel the pinch, those who are perhaps a little bit more renowned in the region, or those who have perhaps dug their heels in and kind of strategically shifted a little bit, they won't be feeling it as much. But no, it is like there's a reason to be optimistic. We're in one of the greatest places on earth, right? There's tons of investment going in, as we were just discussing prior to the show. There's tons of investment already going in from the UAE to weather this, and I think as soon as it's over, everything's going to bounce back to normal.
So you're actively turning people away.
Yeah.
So are you not looking for new people to join you so that you can accept new business?
We are, but we only hire very experienced recruiters, so finding people to join us is quite tricky. But yeah, like for any companies listening, should they reach out, we would not be able to support them. We are genuinely turning business away.
Nice problem to have.
It is indeed.
Wow. Okay. So companies are more cautious at the moment. What does cautious hiring look like? So I'm trying to picture that.
Yeah, so most hires that are made today aren't decided yesterday, right? These are factored in and budgeted for back in Jan, and in some cases last year.
It could be last year,
For large MNCs, right? If we're talking like big firm consultancies and stuff like this, or huge multinational companies, they have already dictated the hires that are being made this month.
Right.
You know, months, if not years ago. These hires are planned in advance. Now, there may be some scenarios where certain roles are perhaps pulled back, but
or on hold,
or perhaps the budget is adjusted for these positions. But the positions that are still doing well are more strategic positions. So if you're someone who's looking for a job, you need to perhaps try and position yourself as more of a strategic resource, as opposed to someone who's doing like a one-dimensional role. That's what kind of gives you that stability in a time like this.
Okay. Businesses, how do they prioritize roles at the moment? Is it different to a year ago or, I don't know, 2 months ago?
Look, if I'm honest with you, and again, you know, it would be lovely to say, look, there's a huge difference and things have changed so much, but ultimately, I think companies are still making hires. They are still moving forward. Of course, not as normal, but more normal than you would expect. More normal than you'd expect. Most of the interview process that we had people in went ahead. They've received offers and things have kind of gone ahead as normal. There have been some where people have received an offer, but it's been given to them on essentially like an open-ended date. So they've said, look, we're going to hire you. This is particularly seen this quite heavily in oil and gas. We're going to hire you, but we don't have a start date for you yet.
Right. Because we're in this holding pattern.
Yeah, this has been happening. And I think because tomorrow things could kick off and then the next day things could calm down, I think companies just want a little bit more stability, especially when making hires for 60, 70, 80K that are perhaps going to be directly impacted by the conflict. So things have moved ahead, but there are certain nuances, I'd say. But overwhelmingly, for someone who's looking for a job, it's not really affected them too much in that extent.
It's interesting this because as much it seems quite vague, but we have to be kind of vague because we're looking overall at the market. It's very difficult. We'd be here all day if we were to zero in on specific roles, I suppose. The one thing I wanted to ask you was the market, particularly Dubai, but the UAE, to be fair, it's a competitive job market, very competitive job market. Lots of people want to be here. They want the lifestyle. They want to work. Thousands of people applying for roles. Is that an accurate perception? Am I being misleading if I characterize it that way?
No, you're definitely not. So the UAE is one of the most saturated, if not the most saturated job market in the world. Saturation is somewhat different to a competitive job market. Although the UAE is competitive, saturated means that the flow of talent coming into the market outweighs the demand from companies. And it always has.
Yeah.
Right? It has, but since I've been doing what I do, it always has. And it still is the case now. Although you'd think that people would, and mention this again when the first time we spoke, although you'd think people were very hesitant about expats moving over here now, the amount of people who are still looking to move over to this part of the world is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And for a lot of people, the way that the UAE has handled this has actually attracted them to the region more. So the flow of talent coming in, there are still hundreds, if not thousands of people on every single application. We listed a finance manager job the other day, and I think it's on like 1,200 applications now.
How do you go through that? Is
It's
that
automated. Yeah, it's all automated.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest challenges in saturated job markets. Everything's automated. But also in saturated job markets, the quality of applicant does tend to decrease.
Sure.
So perhaps 2 or 3% of the people that have applied to that finance manager job will be truck drivers.
Just scattergun approach.
Scattergunning everything.
Go for anything, yeah.
Then you've got about 20% that was submitted with some sort of AI apply thing, and they just get automatically rejected. There are systems and tools that just fire your application out to thousands of jobs, and most likely nothing comes back. But this is what a saturated market looks like. The quality tends to dip, so it's kind of like finding a diamond in the rough.
Well, how do you find that diamond in the rough then? And by the same token, how do you stand out if you're a really good finance manager and you're fighting against 1,200 people? Okay, you separate a lot of the wheat from the chaff, but there's probably still 600 people in there.
Yeah, you would think, but it would be more so about 5 to 10% of people that are applying are actually suitable.
Really?
Yeah. So you'll have directors applying for a manager grade role, which it isn't right. Companies don't tend to look at that because it's a red flag. You'll have people with 1 year of experience applying for a manager role, which isn't suitable. Again, the suitability is a real issue. One of the main reasons, or one of the best ways for you to get seen, is by playing the game. Essentially, it's all done by AI. It's all done via something called an ATS, which is an applicant tracking system. Essentially, manages the entire hiring process, and you need to manipulate that to some degree to show your application to the recruiters. Another way, and one of the best ways, especially for more senior individuals, is getting headhunted. So driving recruiters and hiring teams to your profile directly on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's the main platform for recruiting in the world at the moment. So driving them to your profile on LinkedIn is another way.
Wow. Okay. It's remarkable.
Yeah.
How much of the hiring slowdown that we read about, we hear about, we're talking about is psychological versus real?
Look, I think one of the biggest challenges of our lives at the moment is social media, right? You're seeing posts. I read a post yesterday that said that Dubai had been hit again, right? And it looks extremely official. It looks very official. And everyone in the comments is saying, oh my God, not again. It started again. So now these people go and tell 10 other people. And before you know it, everyone thinks that it's all kicking off. And unfortunately, headlines spread very quickly. And there are, unfortunately, organizations and people who are sort of capitalizing on this because people react to fear.
Sure.
Right? Sure. People react to fear. So there are these headlines going around that, no one's hiring, Dubai's over, the UAE's dying, and everyone's leaving. And there are these headlines going around, and these things affect people more than reality.
Yeah.
These things affect people more than reality.
Right, yeah. Okay. No, it's good to kind of put it into some sort of context because I've seen posts. I was watching a report a couple of weeks ago, and it was it's a ghost town, and I was walking around thinking it's really not a ghost town. That's just wrong.
Yeah.
So it's erroneous reporting. Or what was the one at the weekend? It was I think it was UK media, and it was 1 in 8 Brits have left, and lots of people firing back, 7 out of 8 are still here. Probably most of those were tourists. So it's
people always leave Dubai. People always come and go. It's not a case where this is unique to now. People are coming and going all the time. Like if you've got, for anyone who has kids in school, they'll know that there are kids leaving the class all the time, kids coming back into the class all the time. It's a transient society. It's an expat society.
That's a very good point, because it's been school holidays as well.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Like it's an expat society, and unfortunately, one thing that does quite upset me is it seems like people around the world are relishing in what's happening almost. Like it seems like a lot of people are quite like excited about it to see like the UAE in a tight spot, and it's quite upsetting really. And I think that does spread a little bit of negative perception.
I share that experience with you, because that's very much British media. But you know what? That's the build them up, knock them down mentality, and that's something you have to try and fight, I think.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: there's no kind of one size fits all response. What separates companies who are perhaps hiring quite aggressively from those that are pulling back at the moment, do you think?
Industry is obviously, of course, number one. If you're directly impacted, then that's going to be the first thing. The second thing would be their ability to react. Their ability to react to a disaster. And some organizations perhaps are, more leveraged on older methods, perhaps aren't really utilizing social media properly, perhaps are, not as advanced in terms of their hiring tools and how they actually secure talent. So they're struggling. And, there are certain things that will cause organizations to struggle. But I'd say the primary sort of one word to describe it is adaptability.
Right.
So their ability to adapt to something like this. I think that's the primary thing that dictates how well you're going to cope and whether or not you're going to kind of struggle with the scenario.
Okay. In your post, there was something you said, and I wanted to try and drill into this a little bit. We've got a few minutes. You said a job search should take 2 to 4 weeks.
Yes.
Right? Which is that's the piece of string, isn't it?
Yes.
Is that generally what you see generally, or is that now? How does that work?
So the truth on the matter is it should take 2 to 4 weeks if it needs to take 2 to 4 weeks. Your job search should take 2 to 4 weeks is essentially my tagline, if you will. Now, the reason that this came about was because the UAE is an extremely transient society. If someone loses their job, they need to head back to their home country. There's not much time for you to secure something else.
Yeah, the 30-day cancellation of visa
Exactly.
Right.
It is possible for you to secure something in 2 to 4 weeks. It's not ideal.
Right.
In the ideal scenario, especially if you're relatively senior, you want to give yourself 2-3 months.
Sure.
It can be done in 2 to 4 weeks if it has to.
Right. Okay. And then the last thing, and this is great, your post was, I talked to a few people, and then somebody responded to you. I just wanted to bring this up because I thought there are 2 reasons. Yes was a response to you. The masterpiece of nothingness, proudly brought to you by LinkedIn. I spoke with 3 founders, and we're already off 3, not 30, not 300, 3. Then the insights. Now, I thought a little bit unfair because a snapshot is a snapshot, right? And as you said, you've spoken to a few people. But I liked your response, because I thought it shut it down quite nicely, but you were so polite. You just said, glad you enjoyed the article. Which I thought was good.
Look, I think someone who's saying stuff like that, I don't think they're looking for a well-thought-out response, right? I think it's more of a jab than an actual inquisition for information.
But I like you fronting up on social media that way. That was good. It's good to talk to you. Zachary Bennett is a talent partner at the recruitment firm Professional Pyramid. Thanks for coming in.
A pleasure. Thank you for having me back.
Good to have you here. This is Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM, your daily guide to the markets, money, and more.
This is Mira Business FM. It's the morning drive. Food security next, a strategic priority for the UAE, particularly given the supply chain issues we've seen very lately. Lots of people talk about the challenges. Our guest today is actively building solutions across continents from here in the UAE. Hassan Halawi is the group CEO of Elite Agro, and under his leadership, the group isn't just farming locally, they're scaling massive global supply chains to help ensure that the UAE's food security is buffered against geopolitical storms. Hassan, it's good to have you here. Welcome.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Pleased to meet you. So the UAE continues to prioritize food security. It's a statement of intent, obviously by the government. How is Elite Agro aligning with national strategies, and what role does scale play today?
Well, thanks for bringing up this topic. It's honestly been the hot topic for the last couple of weeks.
Sure.
And the first thing I would like to say to everyone is, like, don't panic. It's all under control, especially in UAE. It's been strategically looked into and looked after. As far as I could remember, and I can tell you that Elite Agro was established in 2010 as a first response to the food crisis that happened back then. Right. So you can see that the leadership has taken a strategic and a very long-term vision into our food security, and it's because it is part of the overall national security of the country, and it plays an integral part of it. Our part into the whole ecosystem is feeding in the local production, which is one of the pillars of food security.
Yeah.
Today, Elite Agro is still the largest single producer in the Emirates. We manage 4 of the largest farms, producing over 22,000 tons of fruits and vegetables, and more importantly, we produce also around 35,000 tons of animal feed forages, which are important for our livestock and our protein, in-country protein production. As I mentioned, we started in 2010, luckily, and we went through a very deep learning curve, which has made us outgrow our footprint here. And today we're present in 4 other countries: Serbia, Morocco, Mauritania, and Ethiopia, where we are managing also large-scale farms. In Serbia, we have almost 18,000 hectares under management, owned by the company and under management. In Morocco, we have around 3,000 hectares, and in Mauritania, around 5,000 hectares. All that feeds into a full supply chain ecosystem that, even when it's not feeding directly into UAE, it's a strategic investment, knowing that we have it, we have access to it, and we have the first right to where to sell it.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it's a large international footprint. You have what? 3,000 hectares here. What's the area
in the UAE, the cultivated is around 3,000 hectares.
Right.
We're limited by the water. Water is the main constraint in the UAE. It's not the land.
Yeah.
So that's why we're limited to around 3,000 hectares. That is company-owned assets and that we manage. But above that, we've turned into a we don't feed we support the food security in what we produce. We have outgrown that to be like the main support in terms of our other services. We have one of the most advanced engineering services in arid agriculture, and we offer these services for anyone else who would want to invest into agriculture. So we design and build some of the most high-tech agriculture facilities, the full vertical from greenfield up to the processing lines. We do that internally for our company, and we do that also for other investors who are going into the agri space. We do that not only in the UAE. Our services are competitive enough that we bid for international projects, and we do projects internationally as well. So that's kind of the full vertical and the full capabilities that we have within Elite Agro to support the food system, I would say, so that we would have a more resilient food security in country.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's still a sizable area, 3,000 hectares here in the UAE. I'm interested in an era at a time when nations are very often turning inwards. I'm interested in that decision to have, you've got a national, but you've also got a global supply chain.
Yeah.
And that's obviously a decision made. That's the most secure way, I guess, to ensure food security to feed the UAE?
In terms of food security, there's always the misconception that food secure nations are nations that produce 100% of their food, which is not the case.
No.
It's never the case, actually. We just came back from Beijing, and I was surprised that China still imports a lot of its food. So the importance of the food supply chains is to know is to have a diversified supplies that can maneuver or outmaneuver any disruptions that happen to your regular supply chains that you are basically counted on. So we shouldn't be reliant. We're in an age where geopolitics are becoming or geopolitical tensions are becoming more frequent. The last few years, we had the Ukraine-Russia war. We have the issues in Sudan. We had the issues before Hermes. We had in Mendeb. So we need to really have diversified sources whereby we know that our feed is coming from different time zones, different geographies. So whatever disruptions that might happen, whether be it political or environmental or even sometimes financial, so that we have been diversified, and more importantly, we have the strategic reserves in the country to have a buffer and storage that would outlast any potential conflict that we might incur.
It's interesting because it's a diversification of risk, isn't it? I guess if you've got localized climate events, things like that. So the business operates across the full kind of agri-food value chain. How does vertical integration translate into resilience, particularly given the supply shocks that we've seen, the global supply shocks we've seen?
It's interesting because if you look into the full vertical, we look into open field production, controlled environment agriculture, which is the greenhouses where we grow fruits and vegetables, and then you go look into your packaging facilities, your cold chains, and then the distribution network all the way to the retailers or the end user consumer. How to feed into these different layers is important because, like I told you, in the UAE, we're limited in the production that we can do. So there's the segment that is local production that feeds the first layer, which is more focused in the UAE into fresh fruits, into fresh vegetables, and controlled environment agriculture because of the challenges that we have in the adverse weather conditions and the limitation in water. And then you have the supplies that come in from abroad, whereby we outsource, whether from our farms or from other international vendors, we outsource these produce and we feed them into our packing facilities, so that we ensure that we have the same quality standards, the same hygiene standards, get repackaged and then get distributed to the distribution and retailers that we have in the country. So it's a harmony. You need to have some harmony and sync between all these different moving puzzles, so that you ensure that your shelves are always stacked with fresh produce, and there is no limitation to access for the end user.
You have a strong focus, I gather, on agri-tech, a strong focus on smart farming.
Yeah.
What innovations are delivering the biggest gains at the moment?
Not as much as we see on billboards, unfortunately. I've seen, it's interesting. Everybody, like, what do you do? It's becoming very trendy now, AgTech. We're really agriculture, not AgTech. AgTech can feed in, can support. Unfortunately, the penetration of technology into agriculture, when you compare it to other industries like the fintech or like the medical field, is really very limited. And it comes to various reasons. One is agriculture, unfortunately, works at very low margins. So when it comes to innovation, adoption of technology and all that, they're really very hesitant to do the initial investment. That's one part. The second part is farmers in general are very traditional. They like to, they're very hard to be convinced into moving the other direction. But having said that, science today is available. We do have a very advanced infrastructure, especially in our farms in the UAE. We have some of the most sophisticated irrigation systems because our most valuable input is the water, and we need to really conserve it as much as possible. And what we operate on here is the conversion of water into food, and how much water can give us kgs in food. This is a very important formula. It's an important part of our success because it is the most limited resource and most valuable one. You can see, like in the products displayed in front of you, that's why we started focusing more on high-value crops, because we wanted to have a better return on this water. This is not food security, but this is maintaining our infrastructure, getting good return to our investors and shareholders so that we can maintain this infrastructure, so that in time of need, we have an operating infrastructure that we can always switch to growing the essential food staples. But you're not going to stay from one crisis to another, which may take 10, 15 years, 20 years, draining yourself into growing staples, for example, that are not giving you a good ROI.
I mean, it makes sense because while it might not be food security in the traditional sense, it's certainly security of common sense.
I would count on that a lot. Yes, I always count on this common sense. It's very uncommon, but I'd like to count on the common sense.
You got operations across multiple continents, as you say, Serbia and Morocco and Mauritania, and as well as here in the UAE. How do you manage climate variability so that you can ensure that you've got consistent year-round production? Because we're used to that now, aren't we? We're used to going into the supermarket. There's my figs, for example, whatever.
Well, I think we're getting more spoiled by the years, and we're followed by a much more spoiled generation that have very high expectancy. Or expectations. Anymore, exactly. Yeah. So I would remember growing up, I would eat an apple during 2 months a year. Same thing for a berry or a strawberry or seasonal.
That's right.
And that's where you get it. So today our children or the new generation, they expect to have everything, and they expect it to be like delivered on an app in a second. It's changing time. We need to evolve with it, or else we're left outside. So we need to be available, and this is part of the new strategy that we're adopting, which is focusing on certain crops where we know we can add value, and we can service our clients in giving them this 365 days availability, preferably through our own production. So we would like to operate across different time zones, different geographies, into a certain criteria of crops that we know we have an edge in, and that we can supply to our clients on contractual basis year-round. So that kind of helps us against fluctuations. That gives our clients confidence that they are dealing with a reliable partner. And this is a bit of the industry trend, how it's growing, so that we're more focused. We have a team that is, it helps us in our outsourcing of our inputs. It helps us in our efficiency. It helps us in being more, growing our economy to scale so that we're competitive in these products.
Mm. You've mentioned water a couple of times for obvious reasons. We're in an arid region, a desert region.
This water is no longer the problem of this region. Water today is a global problem that is not limited to the UAE. On the contrary, being based in the UAE and having started in the UAE has given us the edge into growing successfully outside, because this is where we started. We started at this space. We started with appreciating water. So when we go to Serbia, where for the first time ever we have to install irrigation system, or when we go to Morocco, where we're having more pressure on the irrigation on the water availability, or when we go to Saudi or anywhere else, we have started with a very solid base of harsh environmental conditions, very limited water, and that gave us our edge to really be competitive and succeed outside.
Okay, so you started by solving that problem, didn't you? Because that's where you had to begin.
Exactly.
What kinds of solutions are you employing that are helping to improve efficiency? Because you're operating in it's a tough environment.
Yeah. So again, this is where technology comes in and helps. In our closed environment agriculture, we've moved all our production into hydroponic systems, which saves a lot of the water.
Right.
So there's the plant gets exactly its need, and the rest of the water is collected and recycled. And we use very efficient fertigation systems with sophisticated irrigation system, all weather control, so that we optimize the use of the water.
Right.
In our the challenge comes in the outdoor production or the open field production, because we have adverse conditions, we have limited water, but we also have sandy soil which does not hold water.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to that, we rely a lot on technology again. We use geospatial monitoring to monitor the indexes so that we can optimize our irrigation frequency. We use a lot of soil sensors so that we get accuracy of the reading, and we use very advanced irrigation system, the pivots or the open field system, so that we can increase the frequency of the irrigation. So we irrigate more often, lesser intervals, so that the water is available for the plant and does not leach into the ground. I would invite you to visit the farm, and I will share a couple of videos to see. We're really, I think that we run some of the most sophisticated, most advanced irrigation systems globally.
I can imagine. I need to do a lot better with my basil growing on the balcony. I got to say that. You're involved in government-to-government initiatives, aren't you?
We're part of that.
What opportunities are emerging from those partnerships?
I mean, we play our role as a UAE company by taking benefit of the opportunities that the UAE UAE bilateral relationships come with different governments. But on a larger scale, if you want to look at it from food security perspective, and also from the global goodwill or impact that the UAE does, I would really like to emphasize on this point, because this is something that's done for the goodness of people, for the good of people, I would imagine. When we go and invest abroad in countries that have the potential to grow food, but is not producing it, we are basically supporting the food systems in the world by changing these countries from net importers to producers. By doing that, you release the pressure from the supply chains that are feeding the world I'll give you an example. Today, Ukraine, Brazil, and 3 other countries feed almost 80% of the world in food staples. When you go to a country in, let's say, Africa, that is a net importer of wheat and rice, and you set up a farm that is 30, 40, or 50,000 hectares that is able to produce 20 or 30% of the food consumption of that country, you, first of all, you help that country because the biggest stress on their economy is their food bill, is that money, that the hard currency they have to send outside to import their food. So that relieves pressure on their local currency, one. Second, when they produce their food, this means that the stress and the demand on the main suppliers that feed countries that cannot grow like us, food staples, to make this food more available. And that is supporting the food security globally, not just in that particular country. This is the importance of what UAE is doing in these G2G initiatives and in the investments that it is doing globally on a G2G level.
Okay, so a net positive thing to do because it's the right thing.
It is the right
to
thing.
do.
It is the right thing. And mind you, this is not always looked into. I mean, we as companies need to be profitable, but this is not always looked into in terms of we need to grow that food and bring it here. We have the right to bring it here, but most importantly is that the good it's doing to each country that the agriculture companies are investing in is much higher than the net economical benefit.
You see, it's easy to be cynical about that,
exactly.
Obviously, but if that forms part of I don't know, if a government mandate or an attitude to the thinking behind those kinds of investments, there's a real feel-good factor to that. That must come back in returns other than simply financial returns, surely.
Absolutely.
Demand for traceability and food safety, that is rising globally. How do you maintain, and you've mentioned this as well, it's obviously key, but how do you maintain quality control at scale across different markets?
Yeah. First of all, I want to emphasize on the fact that local produce in the UAE is one of the highest standards in the world, because in the UAE by law, and MOCA, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Climate Change, back then was Agriculture, stated the law in 2018 where all the local farms need to be global GAP certified.
Right.
So any produce that you pick up that is locally produced in the UAE, you would with a high certainty know that it's done with good agriculture practices. It would not have chemical residues on it. It's hygienically clean and safe for consumption. So that's something that I really need to pass on and use this stage to reiterate to people, because there's always this misconception about local produce. At Elite, we don't face it anymore because we worked hard on our brand and on our on positioning ourselves, so people relate Elite Fresh as a quality produce. But I want to also emphasize that this applies to local produce in general, UAE local produce in general. Having said that, since we have these legislations in place for the quality standards, within Elite, we have different layers of quality control. It starts from the field, to the pack house, to the supply chain. We run 4 of the most sophisticated and state-of-the-art pack houses that maintains the cold chain from picking up the product all the way to its dispatch on the retailer's shelf. By that, we ensure that first of all the nutrition and the dietary added value of the produce is still with it. And the client who is consuming this product within 24, 48 hours is getting the value of all this nutritional benefits that come with the fruit or the vegetable. And also by that, we cater for a very, very important problem that faces the food system, which is the wastage. Till today, we waste around 33% of everything we produce, whether on the field or through the different supply chains till it reaches the producers. So maintaining this cold chains and maintaining this value chain across the full vertical is very important so that we can eliminate and reduce the food wastage. With all that in place today, we're at around 6 to 8% wastage. So imagine it is so from 33 to 6 to 8 is a huge difference, but that takes a lot of investment. That takes a lot of investment to be in place so that we can maintain this end-to-end solution.
I mean, I've noticed in the last few years you've brought in lots of different products this morning, but I've noticed, I've lived in the UAE for some time, but I've noticed certainly the last 5 to 10 years, the difference in packaging, the difference in look of local produce. It wasn't that long ago when raspberries from the UAE.
Yeah.
Excuse me? No, they come from wherever they come from. Blackberries from the UAE, not a chance. But now that's not the case. It's very hard to tell the difference between these packaged products here from the international products coming in. Aside from, it says, grown in the UAE or whatever, or produced locally or whatever. So there has been a huge change, as you say. You're expanding more into processing and into distribution. How important is it to move beyond the farming, if you like, into that kind of full food system model?
It's very important for our it's very important for our returns. Each country has its own particularities in terms of its distribution chains and the value chains around the food. UAE is no different. So for us to be able to bypass the middleman and this is a problem with agriculture everywhere in the world. So luckily for us that we were supported by strong shareholders who believe in the industry, in the country, and have a bigger vision. So we were able to invest into the overall supply chain, like I told you. So we have the distribution network where we can directly distribute and position ourselves on the shelves of the retailers or get directly to the consumer. It's very important for us because by that, these margins that eat up sometimes 50, sometimes 70% of your profit are retained within the company rather than going to the middleman or who also have investments and have a business strategy of their own. So that's why it's important for us to really reach the end user. And it's good for the end user as well because the end user knows that this product has been picked 24 hours ago and has reached his table. So it's a win-win situation for both us and the end user.
There's data that suggests that UAE residents are more and more prioritizing reliability, local supply over imported alternatives. And one of the reasons there is side by side, you can see the quality, I guess. So it's a shift from sort of niche preference to necessity, I suppose. It's something we're seeing more and more of. Are you seeing this reflected in demand for this is the elite brand, the fresh fruit we've got here, but it's the Marmoum brand as well, isn't it?
The Marmoum now is part of Al Ain Dairy.
Okay.
Okay, so it's no longer under the elite umbrella.
That's changed.
Yes, that's changed. But they do have some of the best yogurt and Greek yogurt till today. I could say that. I like Marmoum. And there's also the science behind it, and there's also the investments that came behind it. I will still allow myself to speak. Marmoum Farm is one of the most sophisticated and most advanced dairy farms in the region. and that's why we do get these extra good products.
Okay. Looking ahead, where do you see the biggest growth opportunities in agri-food? And I'm thinking regionally, but also globally.
I think judging from this year's experience, there will be a bit more focus on the local production and increasing the local production. This is an area that we will see some growth. But globally, the newer generation is being much more health conscious, and they have much higher level of awareness on what goes into their bodies and the quality of the food they're consuming, the origin of the food, the carbon footprint of the food that they're consuming. And this is something very refreshing, because I think that the newer generation is going to be able to fix the food systems that we've tried. First we were accomplice in building, and then we're trying to fix, but we kind of felt that we created this monster we're not able to shake. So I think we will return more to locally grown, homegrown food. This trend is going to grow more and more. People want to be more sure and certain about what they're consuming, the quality of the product that they're getting, the genetics. They want to reduce the carbon footprint of food being shipped all over the world to reach their table. These are micro trends, but they are trends that are growing, and I think it will be wrong not to start building strategies around them, because this is how the new generation, this is their way of thinking, and this is going to shape up the future of the industry.
Well, micro trends tend to become trends,
Exactly.
which tend to become the way it is.
Exactly,
don't they?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's the reality, I suppose. What risks do you see? I mean, we're in uncertain times. So what risks do you see to global food systems at the moment? And how would you like to see companies, farms, companies, governments responding?
The risks that we're seeing, just recently in the last few weeks, we've seen some of the biggest risks that will affect that's going to affect next year millions, if not billions, of people. Although the conflict is contained in the GCC, however, that same strait that controls the oil controls also the outflow of almost 30% of the nitrogen fertilizers that is required for food production. By the nitrogen not reaching farmers globally, first of all, there's now higher demand on the nitrogen that is coming, which goes into urea and the NPK, from the other sources, so the price has almost doubled. Many of the farmers cannot afford it, so they're not using it. So that will automatically lead to 40-50% drop in their production. The others who could afford it, they've put an extra burden on themselves by having to pay some unbudgeted operational costs for their inputs. And eventually this is going to drive food prices even higher. We might not, we'll notice it, but we'll not feel the impact of our wheat price rising 40-50%, or the rice rising 40-50%. You will notice it, but you can continue your life with it. But when you go to populations that we say, live hand to mouth, where the family income, 50% of it goes into their food bill, and the other 50% goes into their housing, electricity, education, all that. So if your food bill jumps by 50%, this is going to take out money from their rent, from their health, from their education, and this is going to create a lot of chaos. So the interconnectedness of the global food systems that we build post-World War II and reliance on hydrocarbons and the monocropping culture that we created needs to be reconsidered. And we need to start looking into ways into localizing produce more. Countries that can and have the resources to produce food and are not doing it because they cannot compete with the monocropping culture that we have really need to start, or it's a combined responsibility to start encouraging to grow food, because we cannot continue with using this broken system. Yeah. This is a system that's like a time bomb and it's going to explode.
My final question for you is really about your long-term vision, I think, and it's your role when you consider the UAE's national food strategy 2051, with how you continue to build a more kind of self-sufficient, a more sustainable food ecosystem in the UAE, and obviously beyond the UAE as well in your case. But what's your vision for that, just to finish off today?
So in terms of the Global Food Security Index, and that's where that's the benchmark that we measure the progress and how well we're doing.
Right.
Today we're doing great on it. But we do have aspirations because, you know, in the UAE we like to be number one in everything, and we can achieve it. But then again, you need to look into the whole basket, the whole matrix of how to achieve that. I think we have excellent supply chain networks. The resilience of our supply chain networks are great. What happened in recent events gonna also highlight gaps in the system, which are being looked into. The additional ports on the ocean, the rail network that's gonna facilitate food coming in and out. The thing about the greatness of the UAE is how fast it reacts. And today also don't underestimate what's been signed with Jordan on the railway for the change of chemicals that go into the agri inputs. This is a very, very important strategic move. So in terms of the supply chain network, I think we'll do great. In terms of our local production, that's something that we need to focus on. Science helping us more and more. Like you mentioned, you haven't seen blueberry, or you couldn't see blueberry or raspberry or blackberry 10 years ago. So that's due to science, advancement of science helping us to grow these products locally. I think our basket will grow more in the coming few years with the advancements of genetics and AI. And the last thing is we really need to look more into the efficiency of the food systems. Traceability today and AI is helping us come up with solutions to lower the wastage of food. And the last thing I would say is awareness, people awareness. We really do not have to eat avocados every day.
That's true.
It's good, it's nice, and same thing applies for sushi. So we need to be more aware of what's the impact of our choices on the overall village that we live in today, which is called Earth. So the more demand we put on it, the more we're going to be stressing it, and it's a combined responsibility for all of us to be contributing to its well-being.
We've got to get across, haven't we, that when I was a kid,
yeah,
for example, I knew that in May, June, round about Wimbledon time, to me, strawberries were great.
Of course, yeah.
Earlier, the ones at the moment, a little bit watery, not so much flavour, not quite as much sun, they're not ripening as much. By about May, June time, they're pretty good. Because it's seasonal.
Absolutely.
But then by October, ain't no strawberries around. But I knew that there weren't. We've got to kind of get back to that. I don't want to sound too much of a ethereal hippie here, but it's getting back to nature a bit, isn't it?
It will help.
Kinda.
It will help. It will help. I mean, I don't want to go overboard if I have a business to run, but yeah, I think balance is key in everything that we do, and this is part of what we need to be considering today. And then again, I'm very, very optimistic with the new generation. I mean, I'm impressed with the level of consideration they have, whether to fair market price, fair farm gate price, to ethically grown, where was it grown, was the farmer paid properly for his coffee beans or chocolate beans. So these are things that are important. I mean, at the end of the day, we said it's a village, and you can't be doing great while your neighbor is not. So the more we invest into this, I think this is greater good for humanity, and this is something that the UAE has taught us to really look into and support others.
And there's really no shortage either. We can see we're surrounded by fresh produce in the studio for a change this morning. Hassan Halawi is the group CEO of Elite Agro. It's been great talking to you. I appreciate you coming.
Thank you. A pleasure.
Thank you. Good to have you here.
Likewise.
This is Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM, the sound of success.